I got some new spy photos in today from the Bronco Sport. The interior has been completely uncovered and we are gonna look at it. Let's start with my first impressions. So I've been staring at this thing for about 2 hours, and at first when I looked at it, I thought it kind of looked a little bit cheap. I'm looking over to the screen over here. But now I've been staring at it for 2 hours and I think it doesn't look quite so cheap. So this is probably the base model. Let's just get that out of the way. I think there's a number of cues we can figure out that are telling us that it's the base model. It's got like this sort of urethane style coating on the steering wheel, and we're not seeing any kind of nicer materials on the door panels or the dash or anything. Pretty sure this is the base model. The styling is pretty interesting. It's kind of unique in the Ford line, so it's quite chunky looking to me. We've got this center display, which is probably pretty big. I'm guessing it's about 10 inches or something like that. It has sort of rounded corners to it, and that mirrors a little bit what's going on in the hood over the center display and the dash. We can see that the vents, which we've seen before, are vertical, and they have a little bit of a hexagonal kind of pattern to them, and the framing around the vents is quite chunky as well. Then we've got this accent piece, which goes into the doors. It is orange, and you can see in the door over here, the accent piece kind of mirrors what's going on with the vents with this sort of hexagonal type shape going on. And then with the two center vents, we have this styling piece which goes up onto the dash and kind of around sort of this tube type thing. Overall, it's kind of chunky, it's kind of aggressive looking, and remember, I think this is going to start at about $30,000, which is actually a little bit below the average price that people pay for a car in the US, which is around $34,000 now. Now let's talk about the center display for a second, because people are going to be staring at that a whole lot when you're driving it. It does have a little bit of the tablet on a dash type feel, but it is sunken halfway into the dash, and that makes it a little bit distinct. You know, I'm not a big fan of this tablet on the dash type styling. A lot of cars have this right now. In fact, half of them do. However, there's something that is important, which I think this is pretty high up in the dash, so it's really easy for the driver to kind of see what's going on, because people are going to be referring to this display quite a bit, so it's good that it is higher up in the dash. I'm actually kind of a fan of that. Now we've got the entertainment controls, the radio controls that are right below the screen. Now some people say that's where the heating and ventilation controls have been. At least I've seen that in the comments, but personally, I feel like I am playing with the entertainment controls far more than the heating and ventilation. In fact, there's a bunch of studies that have sort of borne that out, so I think that's the right position for them to have them right below the display. It actually makes sense for them to be right below the display too. The actual heating and ventilation controls are a little bit lower down in the center console, a little bit less easy to get to, but personally I don't see that as a huge problem. Let's talk about storage for a second. There is actually a lot of storage in this vehicle, and I think that is the right move for a vehicle like this. First of all, right below the center display, you've got a pretty big storage cubby where there is space for a phone. Looks like you could put a couple of phones in there. Pretty easy to reach, maybe coins, whatever you want to put in there. And then down below in the dash, you've got another storage area, which is pretty big looking to me. I think you could fit a lot more than a phone there. And interestingly, it's got two illuminated things there. I think those are USB ports. So there's quite a bit of space down there. I don't know that it's going to have wireless charging. My guess, certainly on this base model, that it won't, but there potentially is space for wireless charging down there. It would be cool to see actually more than two USB ports, but hey, I'm not going to complain about that. I'm happy with any kind of number of USB ports that a car has nowadays. In a moment, we're going to compare the interior to the Ford Escape. Remember, this platform, this Bronco, is based on the Ford Escape, so they have taken the chassis and they have modified it a little bit to make it more off-road capable, to sort of suit the needs of what Ford thinks a Bronco is going to be. Okay, now to something which personally I think is a little bit more controversial. It is this rotary gear selector. Now, I'm personally not that big a fan of it. I think people really are very used to the classic lever that every car has had for God knows how long, decades at this point. So you are introducing something that is a little bit of a paradigm shift. It's a little bit difficult to get used to, but you know, be that as it may, that's basically what we have. It looks right behind it. There, of course, is a parking brake knob. So this is going to have an electric parking brake like pretty much all cars have right now, but I mean, you're not going to be doing e-brake turns in this thing anyhow. I don't think this is really set up to be a drift machine. Right below the parking brake is some type of mystery button. I'm not sure what that is. If you have theories, comment down below. Now, right behind that whole gear selector thing, we've got another button. This looks to be a hill descent type button. And on the escape, we've got, depending on the model, between 4 and 5 different buttons back there that do different things. So considering that we are almost completely positive this will be 4x4 across the line, even in the base model, I don't know if it's going to be full-time four-wheel drive or not, but let's just for a moment presume that it's not going to be full-time four-wheel drive. I think it's a possibility that these buttons are going to be your drive mode selectors, so 4 low, 4 high, that kind of stuff. Again, this is the Sport, so I'm not sure that this is really going to have lockers in it. If you're going to have locking front and rear diff, I think that's going to be, or a center diff, I think that's definitely going to be something for the bigger Bronco, which is just called the Bronco. I kind of doubt that it's going to have that here. So another thing that I see, which is really nice, it's got a lot of cup holders. We got 3 in the center console. That's pretty nice, so you can spill your big gulp as you're doing your mall crawling. Now the seats, again, this is another clue that this is a base model. This definitely has cloth on the bolsters, on the sides. I'm not entirely sure what the material is in the center. It probably is cloth too. It could be some type of leatherette type material, but on a $30,000 car, I'm expecting cloth. Now just to go back to the storage thing for a second, we've got a lot of interior storage here in the door as well. We've got a pretty big cubby hole type thing. It looks like you can put a lot of stuff in the back there. We've got a lot of standard issue tissues here. I'm sure this is for, you know, cleaning the car as the Corona special or something. Sorry for the bad joke there. It also looks like you can fit a bottle in the door, some kind of another, you know, water bottle or something like that. So tons of storage. I think this is definitely the right move for a vehicle of this type. Again, in the door, we've got this orange accent. I'm assuming that this is an optional color. I'm guessing that the standard color is going to be some sort of brushed aluminum or fake plastic brushed aluminum, something like that. But I kind of dig the orange. Personally, as you maybe can tell, I kind of like orange. Let's talk about the dash for a second. This is a full LED dash. Pretty much every car that is coming out now has full LED or close to it. The reason for that is it's cheaper. It used to be sort of the higher end things, but it is less expensive. So we've got a tach on the left, we've got a fuel gauge. Right in the center, you've obviously got your PRNDL, and then it does look like it has a fairly big size center display. I think this is displaying a map right now, so it looks like you can put your navigation on there. I don't know that nav is going to be standard on the base model, but I'm just sort of speculating here. I'm assuming over to the right is going to be a tachometer too. But that's a pretty nice big center display, and I'm assuming it's going to be configurable as well. So you've got 2 pretty big displays. You got your center one in the dash, you got the one right in front of you. The steering wheel looks like it's pretty much directly out of the Escape. I don't think they have changed a whole lot here. I don't know if it's going to come with this optional orange sticker in the middle on the final release version. I'm just going to have to wait and see. And you know, this tape, I'm not really a big fan of the gray tape too. We'll see if that's an option or not. Next up, we're going to compare the interior to the Ford Escape, and then we're going to get to the powertrain after that. Looking at the Escape on the left, this is obviously a higher level trim. It does have a full digital dash, and the hood around the dash is definitely more, it's definitely more squared off on the Bronco. I think that is sort of part of the style that they're doing. The whole impression is a little bit more chunky and aggressive and kind of blocky. Now on the Bronco, we have these very vertical air vents. On the Escape, they are horizontal, so a big difference there. The heating and ventilation control is in the same spot, but overall the Bronco has a more distinct style because it is part of the sub-brand. I think it's good that they are really differentiating it very clearly from the Escape, so it doesn't have the same look and feel. It has its own kind of unique identity. I think they're going to develop that farther as the brand grows. And I just want to say, if you've got tips on the Bronco, or you just want to chat about the Bronco or any other vehicle, you got some spy information, I'm going to keep it secret, message me on Instagram. It's right up on screen right now. Also, we're super close to 60,000 subscribers, so if you are the guy or girl who hits 60,000, screenshot it, send it to me on Instagram, and I will put it up in the first video that comes out after I hit 60K. Next, we're going to talk about the powertrain and the trim levels. It looks like we have 5 trim levels happening in the Bronco Sport. We've got base. It's probably going to be called SE. That's sort of a standard Ford naming convention, but they've got some interesting new names here, which we haven't seen before at Ford. So we've got something called Big Bend, Outer Banks, Badland, and First Edition. I think the First Edition is going to be the most expensive. We don't really know what's going to be in these trim packages yet. I did a whole video on it though. I'm going to link it down below. Now, some people are going to complain about this. This is a little bit controversial. The suspension. This is going to have independent suspension all the way around. Now remember, this is not as off-road centric as the bigger Bronco, the midsize Bronco, which is based on the Ford Ranger. This is independent all the way around, kind of like the Jeep Renegade. I think that is probably a fairly reasonable comparison. Perhaps the Toyota RAV4 TRD edition, the off-road edition. Let me know if you want me to test the RAV4 TRD and take it off-road. I can definitely do that if there's enough interest. Okay, in terms of the engine compartment, what's under the hood? So the base one is almost certainly going to get a 1.5 liter EcoBoost, 3 cylinders, not 4. This is called the Dragon engine. It's currently it's made in Mexico. It's in the Ford Escape. The powertrains, again, are going to be based on what's in the Ford Escape. Makes 180 horsepower, 177 pound-feet of torque, gets 31 miles a gallon. In terms of transmissions, I think that the Bronco Sport is just going to have automatics, probably an 8-speed automatic. If you want the manual, you probably need to move up to the bigger Bronco. Next up, we've got a 2-liter EcoBoost engine. The 4-cylinder makes 250 horsepower, 275 pound-feet of torque. That's actually quite good. Towing capacity is 3,500 in the Escape. That's, it's pretty decent. And thirdly, there is probably going to be a hybrid version as well, although the rumor mill, my sources don't know too much about that. Again, if we look at the Escape, we've got a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder with a pair of electric motors. I think the total output is 200 horsepower, 88 kilowatt motor. I'm not sure if that's 1 or 2, probably 1. All-wheel drive mode, 43 miles per gallon city, 37 highway, 40 combined. If you haven't already subscribed, please go ahead. My name is Eric, and I will see you in the next video.